right. Well, first and foremost, I am super excited to be here today. I'm glad that you are all here, and I love seeing the goals in the chat. So hopefully you can leave today with some actionable items. If you've never seen me before on social media, hopefully we connect after today. But I love actionable items. I'm not a gray area person. I'm not a conceptual person. I'm like, tell me what to do so I could do it. Tell me how to fix it so I can fix it. So I want today to be as tactical as possible for you to be able to leave and know how to build more conversations. And the reason for that is because we can want all the viral posts in the world. We can want all the engagement, the saves and the shares, and all of those things make us feel validated, make us feel seen. But sales come from people. Money comes from people. And people want to have conversations. So let's jump into this. A little bit about me, quick intro for anyone who has never connected with me before. I'm Alyece Smith. And as they said, I help ADHD and neurodivergent entrepreneurs build sales systems that actually work with their brain. We are in an era of things being constantly thrown at us with social media between notifications and emails and all of these different tasks as someone using social media for your business, no matter if it's brick and mortar or online only. There's a lot going on, right? And so we have really had to structure what systems look like so that you can have some sort of work-life balance, so that you can make sure every single ounce of energy that you're putting in your business is leading to your goals, which you dropped in the chat for us earlier. So I spent 5+ years in corporate managing a very large franchise of Domino's Pizza. I did their digital marketing. So at that time, there was about 186 locations with this franchise that I managed all of their social media assets, their online assets, such as, Google pages and Yelp pages, Apple Maps, you name it, I did it. And with that, I learned a lot of different things, okay? Most importantly, though, I learned that it has to go down to the conversations you're having with your customers. And that was something in corporate that we struggled with, because while you might get somewhat of the same pizza at all 186 locations, every area has a different culture. Every area has a different manager. Every area has different people there. And so we struggled with controlling how those conversations were affecting the brand in a way to make sure that they were getting the same service no matter where they were. And also how we could make that community of that area feel as if it wasn't robotic. And so I did a lot of this in corporate, not necessarily DM automation. You're not ordering pizza by Facebook DMs just yet, but I did this with creating conversations in the marketing. So let me know in the chat, when it comes to conversations, what do you feel is hardest for you right now? Is it not sounding robotic? Is it that the conversations just drop off and people are ghosting? What does that look like for you? Let's see what we got. Knowing what kind of hook to use. Okay. Let's see what else. Ghosting, conversations dropping off, ghosting. Okay. All right, perfect. So I've got kind of a starting point so that way I can give good examples throughout this. But I am excited about this because, again, hopefully you can take something away. And I do have a resource for you at the end. Okay, so stick with me till the end. And I will definitely stay as long as they allow me to stay to answer any questions you guys have as well. Okay. But with this being said, I wanted to start out with my corporate experience. I've been in business since June of 2022. So I've actually been on my own with Socially Awesome, my company, since June of 2022. But I spent 5 years doing this at a large scale. And my job wasn't necessarily to sell pizza, okay? As a franchisee, your job is more to sell jobs, having people work there. Domino's Pizza runs these big, large commercials and spends millions of dollars on marketing and advertising every year. The franchisees don't have to necessarily do that. They pay a franchise fee for that. Corporate handles that. My job was to market jobs, recruiting. Because if we didn't have people to staff the store, the pizza wouldn't make it to your house. So it didn't matter how many commercials were out there on the screen, how many people viewed the commercial. If your local Domino's wasn't staffed, you weren't getting your pizza, or you weren't getting it fast enough and it was cold and you were getting a terrible product. So the corporate playbook, Domino's Pizza corporate, was post more, blast more, broadcast more. But I had to learn, when marketing jobs and recruiting people through social media, that the only thing that actually worked was making them feel like they were talking to a human, okay, not a brand. And so this is something that I had to take those learning experiences. And when I went into my business, figure out, okay, how do I market myself? Because I had a logo and all these things in corporate, a 54-page brand guideline that was given to me, but none of that really mattered. And then how do I translate that into my business? And so I saw in the chat several of you saying what kind of hook to use, not sounding robotic. These are all things that we have to understand of your brand and how you talk, and how do we make it sound more human? How do we humanize your message so that that person feels like they're talking to a person and that you care, right? And so most of the locations that performed best when I was doing this were the ones we tracked in metrics: the best hiring, the best retention, the best community engagement, were when we were able to customize the messages that were coming from social media and from text message. We did use a lot of text message marketing. I created a platform where you could apply to work for us through text message. So very similar to, DM automation, text message automation. And I would customize the messages that were going out to match the culture and the community of that store. And so, for example, people at our New Orleans location talked completely different than people at our location in the Midwest somewhere, right? And so culturally, and what type of what that community cared about, right? So that was very important. Another thing that I learned was asking questions. And so that is one of the most humanizing things you can do when using automation, is asking questions. It's very often for us that with automation, we just blast a message, right? Oh, you commented this word, here's what you're looking for, goodbye, right? If you can engage and make the conversation, and we'll actually walk through some of these flows today, it changes everything. That is how you build connection. That's how you have a conversation. They probably know it's a robot. You can even joke around, and I'll give you some examples today. Hey, this is my friendly little chat bot. I'm away right now. Let's chat. That's okay. People want to get what they're asking for with their keyword, but they also want to feel important. And the only way to do that is to ask questions and build on that conversational foundation. Okay. So going through all of this in corporate, I burned out very quickly when starting my business. So you might have noticed in Socially Awesome, my brand name, awesome is spelled AUSOME. No, I'm not from Australia. That's a very common question. I'm right here in Mississippi, but I spelled it that way because I'm an autism mom. And that is why I left my job. That is why I started my business. I was really struggling with the 9-to-5 and the demands of being a really good employee, and making sure that my son, my middle child, got all of the healthcare and therapies and everything that he needed to be successful. And I struggled with the balance of getting him to appointments and all of those things. So I left corporate and started my own business. And it burned out really quick because I was already burnt out in corporate, managing 100. I was doing what 5 people should be doing, 186 locations. Okay, that's a lot. I was posting endlessly. I was trying to customize the content for each one. You think it's hard to make content for just your one account? Try and customize and curate content for 186. It's a lot. Okay, this is pre-ChatGPT days too. Performing, productivity instead of building around it. And I realized really quickly that it was because I was just forcing myself to work in a way that I wasn't designed for, but also trying to be the best at it, right? And trying to constantly learn and grow and research. And if I do have any neurodivergent entrepreneurs on here today, you know that we love research, right? We will go down a rabbit hole in a minute. When we see something fun or exciting, we want to learn. And sometimes it's coming back to the basics, which is that conversation and humanizing it. So once I burned out in corporate and then turned around and burnt out my business after the first year, I really looked at what do I need to do to make this sustainable? Some of that was like guilt and fear, like, oh my gosh, if this business doesn't work out, I'm going to have to go back to a job and then everyone's going to make fun of me and laugh at me, which totally would not happen, but that's where our brain goes, right? Fear of putting ourselves out there and being vulnerable. And I realized that I had to start building systems, and automation, DM automation was definitely one of those. Because I can tell you right now, I have a large following on multiple platforms. I've got 2 different Instagrams, one's personal, one's professional. Both, I do business from both, but one is more geared towards my book and the other is geared towards, my actual coaching business. And so you've got all of those automations and all of those comments and notifications from 2 Instagrams, a Facebook profile, Facebook business pages, TikTok pages, LinkedIn, YouTube. You know what I'm getting at, right? There's a lot of input coming in, but I also knew it needed to sound human, and I needed to use Manychat, other automation, email flows, and things like that to scale the human connection that I'd already proved worked. And so that's what we're going to walk through together today, okay? Because I want to ask you something. Let me know in the chat or type yes, either way. If you've been posting consistently for months or maybe even years for some of you, and you still kind of feel like you're screaming into a void, right? Maybe you're not getting the engagement that you want. Let me know in the chat if you feel related to that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So here's where I put my coaching hat on for just a quick second and tell you that not every piece of content you put out there is going to win. Okay. Not every piece of content is going to get a ton, but your audience is not necessarily ignoring you because your content is bad. Now, there's a lot of things we can do to make content better. Storytelling, hooks. I saw that in the comments earlier. Using more symptomatic language, but that's not what today's training is about. Okay. Content would be a whole other training. Sometimes it's because your content isn't building trust, right? They're ignoring your content alone because it's not building trust with them. So I did see someone comment in the chat about, Manychat's working, but it's not converting. That's a trust problem usually. Sometimes it could be they got busy, right? That happens. But then we can also build in follow-up flows for that. Your content's job is to build awareness, okay? And awareness, unfortunately, doesn't pay bills. That's just how it works, all right? I had a whole nonprofit training for 8 hours this past Saturday. I paid a ton of money for a nonprofit consultant to work with us. I also run a nonprofit. And she said, you can't measure awareness. You got to measure the result of the awareness, right? And that's where engagement numbers, conversion numbers, things like that come in. Now, I know that's not what you wanted to hear, but we want to work on how do we humanize the conversation so that, one, we can get the most out of every conversation that started. So even if you only get 1 opt-in a day or 1 comment a day, it's going to happen. You're competing with ads. There's never been more people online. It takes a while to figure out your brand and get more eyes on your content. And like I said, that's a whole other training. But even if it's just 1 person, how do we convert that 1 person? How do we make sure they get on our email list? We make sure that they're tagged. We make sure that we're following up without exerting all kinds of energy. Okay. So content gets attention. Conversations are what convert it. All right. So let's just say comment to DM. We're going to talk about different flows today. Okay. But when we're looking at content that gets attention, that could be virality. And there could be thousands of comments on it, and you'll get a bunch of people on your email list if you're doing it the right way. And then you'll never hear from any of them. That does not mean they're going to buy. You are more likely to get a buyer from a post that has 2 comments with a good conversation in them than a post that has millions of views with a ton of comments. Absolutely. Okay. The content phase is what builds awareness through your posts and your reels and your stories. And you probably know all of this, right? Problem aware, thought provoking, disruption hooks. Hopefully you know a little bit about what your audience's awareness level is. But then the conversation phase, this is what builds trust. And this is through DMs, responses, the conversations you're having. Obviously, people engage and will often buy when you're not talking at them, but talking with them. So if Manychat fires instantly and they get a DM, that's great. But if it's like, hey, here's the stuff you're looking for, and you peace out, that's talking at them. How can you talk with them? Because not all automations are created equal. And so before I show you the flows, I need to show you the difference between automation that kills your brand and automation that builds it. And I'll tell you right now, even taking all of the experience I had in corporate and then bringing it into my business, took me a very long time. A long time. Some days I'm still learning it too, to be able to customize it. I knew what I needed to do, but to figure out how to do it in a way that would scale and make it easy for me and use tools took a while. Okay, so there's no guilt here. All right, but we want to look at the bad column. You've all received these, okay? Generic, pushy, feels like a robot wrote it at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? No acknowledgement of who you are or what you actually did. These get ignored very often, blocked, sometimes reported as spam. All right. But first one, bad telemarketer, right? Thanks for following. Love to talk to you. Check out my free masterclass. Here it is. They didn't even ask for the information. They didn't ask for that. There is a such thing as permission marketing. Go Google it, or I've done tons of podcast episodes on it. You can listen to those. Permission marketing is one that builds trust. Okay. And that's why a lot of times with the flows, when you're building a Manychat flow, you can't collect their data with the very first message. You can't say, hey, what's your name on the very first message, right? You have to send a message with either like a quick reply or an introduction message first. Now, I don't know Manychat's reason behind that algorithm, but I'll tell you right now, that's great because that gets permission marketing. You've all received some sort of message that says, hey, it looks like you're looking for this. Am I right? And when you click yes, then it starts collecting data, right? That's permission. You're getting permission. A bad network marketer, I get 5 of these a day. Hey, I saw you like my post from 2022. Are you looking to buy some health and wellness supplements? I get them all the time. No shame to network marketers, okay? I'm a leader at a network marketing company as well. Add that to my list of things. I have ADHD. I do a lot. But just because I like their post? Weird, right? Makes you kind of get the ick. Okay. Automated voice message, like sitting on to schedule a doctor's appointment. Thanks for your interest. Your request has been received. You will receive your download shortly. I mean, say that in your Siri voice and see if anybody would want to buy from that, right? Or spam alert. Congratulations, you've been selected for a free strategy call with me. Reply yes, and then give me your social security number. No. Okay, no. These do not work. Okay, they don't work. And you've got to add personality in it. You've got to use their name if possible. And there is a way to collect their name. That way you can grow from there. Okay. Use emojis if you're an emoji person. Add some humor. Humor is one of the most underutilized marketing tools. You got to use it carefully, but use humor. You have to lead with value before you ask for anything. So type bad in the chat if you've ever received any of these types of messages. And if you've got a second, let me know what I'll go back and read it later, but what the worst message you've ever received was. Okay, that makes you want to immediately block someone because we need to acknowledge how bad these are before we can fix them. Okay. All right. Same tool, different results, right? Different results. So, hey, I just saw you commented send. Here's the guide. Give them a link. Let me know if you have any questions. Real human here, I promise, right? This is something that acknowledges what they did. Now, there's a way to make this better. Okay, collecting their email in the chat, tagging it. This is just a generic example here. But you're saying, hey, I saw you did this. It looks like you want this. How would you like to receive it? Would you like me to send it in the chat? Would you like me to send an email? But you're acknowledging what they did, saying, hey, I saw you wanted this. I'm not just random. Thanks for voting on my story poll. Quick question. Want my free Reels cheat sheet? Just reply yes, I'll send it over. You can make this even better. Hey, I saw you voted, on my story poll, or I saw, you replied to my story. Super quick question. I've got a free Reels cheat sheet. I'd love to send you. It can help you with XYZ. Reply yes, I'll send it over. Right? But it's continuing a conversation they already started. They voted on the poll or they replied to a story. So they've already started the conversation. Now you're acknowledging it. Using their name, setting an expectation. Hey, name, just sent it to this email. Check your inbox in the next 2 minutes. Let me know if it doesn't show up. Right? You're using their name, you're personalizing it. Or following up that feels like a friend checking in, right? Hey, just checking in. Did you get a chance to look at that guide? Any questions? I'm here. Could even say something like, hey, I know your DMs are blowing up. Your last post went crazy. Just wanted to make sure it didn't get buried. You can absolutely use humor or personalize this to you, okay? But the difference between these two things is not the technology, all right? Manychat is the same tool and it can be used in both. The difference is the writing and the strategy behind it. And that's what we're going to walk through today. So content versus conversation marketing. Content alone gets attention, okay? Hopefully. It's a competition out there right now to get attention for sure, but that's what its goal is. Builds awareness, okay? Makes people aware of what you do, what you sell, who you are, your story. It's a one-way broadcast. Content alone is a one-way broadcast, okay? Its entire goal is visibility. It's passive consumption. So my husband told me last night, let me know in the chat if you think I should burn him at the stake for this. But he says, yeah, I read all your posts, but, and I'm like, you don't ever like them, comment, nothing. What? And he's like, no, my husband's like, no social media. He only gets it on social media to watch reels that I've watched on TikTok weeks ago. But, I'm like, really? So it's passive consumption, right? He's reading them and he's just doing like this, just scrolling. You've heard it before. People don't get on social media to buy, right? They're there for entertainment. They're there for being social. And they're very easy to scroll past. Conversation marketing converts attention. So some of this element needs to also be put in your content. You need to invite them to have a conversation. That is step one. But it builds trust. It's a two-way dialogue, okay? Active engagement, and it creates loyal buyers, people that recurringly buy from you, people that come back, people that refer. It's better to have a conversation and you will get higher conversion numbers from 20 people than 200 that you just DM'd a link. So let's look at 3 different flows here, okay? 3 flows. Each one, we're going to show you kind of the real setup, some screenshots of what the conversation looks like, the actual results from the campaigns using some of these. Some of them are older. Some of them are newer. I tried to pull some from different time periods of my business. But let me know in the chat. Again, ask questions throughout this. I will absolutely go back and answer them. But we're going to look at comment to DM, story reply, new followers, okay? And there's a lot of different, you can use comment to DM for just about anything, right? New podcast posts or new podcast went out, comment 202, I'll send you the link. Or, hey, doing a training for Manychat, want to come see? Comment era, I'll send you the link. Like that could be used for anything. Story replies, obviously all your stories, and then new followers. What is a way that you can warm up new followers to become leads without being weird? So comment to DM automation, all right? You should know how this works, but I'll walk you through really simply. You post a reel, a post, a carousel of you post something on your feed, and in the caption, you use a trigger word, comment, send, and I will DM you my free guide, right? Someone comments, Manychat fires instantly. They get a DM a lot of times before they even scroll past the post, okay? But the key here is that you're not just going to send a link. You're going to start a conversation. You're going to ask for their first name or their email. Some of these, I told you guys, I pulled old ones as well, because there are things now, year, 2, 3 years later, that I would do completely different. I wanted to show you what I would change in time, okay? So a lot of this is learning what your audience likes, what they don't like, all right? But you're not just sending the link. We're going to start a conversation. Ask for their name, email, tag them in your system so you know what they asked for, okay? But you can see the first chat. hey, hey. I circled this because that's what I say. When I get on trainings or calls with my students or my podcast, you see me in real life, I always say, hey, 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 hey. So that's me. That's what I actually say. I don't say hi or hello. So this is a place for you to enter some of your own branding, your voice, right? Looks like you're looking for my super secret ChatGPT prompt. Am I right? I say that a lot on my podcast. Am I right? Am I right? I guess I'm validating myself because when I'm recording, it's just me and the mic, but but that's my voice. People have heard it in my content. Okay. So they say, yep, sure am. I love being right. I mean, that's humor, right? It's funny. It might turn some people off, but that's my personality. Seriously, though, this is awesome. You'll always see me spell awesome, my brand name wise. That's another way, another plug for you. What are some of these little things that you say in conversation when you're getting on sales calls or connect calls or working with your clients or working with your customers? What are things that you say that you could put in Manychat, right? I'll drop it in the next message, but real quick, what's a good email for you? I've got 54 souped up prompts I'm going to send your way too. So this DM automation specifically, okay, this was when ChatGPT first came out. It was a big deal. Most people didn't know how to use it without sounding super robotic. And I made the post about a super secret prompt, okay? But you can see here, I've also got 54 souped up prompts I'm going to give you. I'm going to hook you up with. Okay, drop me your email. So I'm getting their email right in the chat. Now, if I was to go back and do this again, you could use the first name. Hey, looks like I don't have you in my system. What's the first name? Of course, you can filter that out, put a condition for that. I sometimes use it and I sometimes don't. And then I go back and look at the metrics because I have had some flows before that are so long. People just quit the flow or they say, this took me 20 minutes to get to the thing, right? So that's why your metrics are important. But I got their email in the chat. You can set this up, obviously, to connect with your CRM. You can zap it to a Google Sheet, wherever you want to put it. Okay, here's the goal. Copy and paste this. Here's everything you need to complete. I give them what they asked for. I had a little bit of a delay. Okay, and then I said one more thing before I log off Instagram for the day. Tell me, where do you struggle with most with AI? Okay, was I logging off Instagram? I don't know. They could have been getting this at midnight, but it's just another way for me to make it feel real, right? And so I prompted them with 3 different quick replies. Depending on what they selected, it either led them to another post that I did on that topic, or it could have led them to a podcast episode. It went a lot of different places, but my goal here was to nurture them further, okay, without being weird or spammy. And so let me know in the chat if you're using comment to DM flow. Okay, I'm sure most of you are if you're here. But this campaign specifically, I ran it for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I let it be live for 2 or 3 weeks. You could let them be live forever. But at that point, it was kind of getting stale. People were already learning and going really fast with ChatGPT. New leads, 245 people added to my email list from it. Message conversion rate, just meaning that, they actually went all the way through. They opened the message, 79%. So the others could have been stuck in their message request. They could have been like, I don't want this anymore. And then other clicks. So like I said, I had at the very end where, hey, 1, 2, 3, to nurture them, 43% clicked one of those things. And so very simple, very easy. If I'd have made it too complicated, they probably would not have. But that was a pretty good click-through rate for me. Average email click-through rate's what? Less than 10% for most. Open rate, 20%-ish. So from one post, this happened, okay? Let me know in the chat. I'm coming back over here to look at the chat really quick. What is your biggest struggle right now when comment to DM? Okay, does Manychat offer analytics? So this entire DM convo was automated. Whole thing was automated. And then they also were tagged, added to my CRM, and sent those prompts that we were talking about. And I'll show you guys that on live flow here shortly. Yeah, Manychat has plenty of analytics. Yes, they do. Okay, does it matter if I use verbiage we or I? I run an account for my boss and usually saw we, voicing like her. Yeah, you will see a lot of brands use we. So it's totally up to you. I would just make sure whatever, whatever context you use, continue that through the conversation, right? So for me, this is particularly everything's coming from me. I usually sign it off as my name, but if I wanted to change it as it's coming from Socially Awesome, the brand name, then yeah, we would make more sense. Sometimes I'll use like Team Awesome, because there was a while there where my VAs were also helping with some of the more manual DMs. So we could definitely chat about that more at the end too. All right. Number 2, story reply automation. So with the story reply automation, okay, looking at a few different things here. This one is for your most engaged followers. We all know you're competing for attention with all content, especially with stories, okay? And stories look a lot different on Facebook than they do on, Instagram. Instagram is just the little circle and it lights up, On Facebook, you can actually preview the story. So there's a lot of ways here that you can draw more attention with stories. But this is going to be for your most engaged people, the ones who watch your story. So let's say they, do a reply trigger. I post a story that says, hey, just dropped podcast episode 202 yesterday. Here's what it's about. Comment 202 or reply 202 if you want me to send you the link. And they tap through or they reply. And then most of us let the engagement just disappear, right? They hearted it and it's done. It's over. If they reply 202 and you don't have an automation set up, maybe tomorrow you'll get back to them, right? This flow really captures that. And when someone engages with your story, there's a way for you to start a whole conversation about it. So Manychat can fire DMs automatically. You can go through an entire sequence that way. So looking at this, I think I can maybe zoom in a little bit so you guys can see a little bit better. This very first one says, hey, first name. Now, this is one of those things I told you guys I would change if I did this again. So if I wanted to actually collect their first name, then I would need to have something prior to this that says, hey, I'm updating my system. What's your first name, right? For this one, you can also set a backup. If the system doesn't know their first name, you could put in their friend or something like that. So it doesn't just give them the first name, right? But that's something to play around with. And I will show you guys that when we pull up the live flow. I'm thrilled to share that I'm giving away. This one was a giveaway, so I was really excited about it. And I posted on my stories every day for about a week. I'm thrilled to share I'm giving away 10 of my content planners, highly requested for a while now. They're for free in exchange for honest feedback. If selected, I'd ask you to send me your testimonial about the planner by Wednesday. So I was giving this for free if you agreed to give me a testimonial. Good, bad, ugly, didn't matter. Honest feedback. I was looking for feedback. So I gave them 2 quick replies. Yep, sounds good. Nah, I can't. Okay. Now, if they said, yep, sounds good, it went to the next flow or the next part of the flow. Okay, awesome. I'm on the edge of my seat here, but are you ready to see if you're one of the winners? I used Manychat's giveaway feature for this. Okay. And for the Content Strategy Planner giveaway, hit the button below to test your luck. And so from there, it either told them they're a winner or they're not a winner. Now, I collected their information before they tested their luck. So that way I was also doing lead capture. So when they clicked let's go, we went into awesome, few quick questions to get you entered, and then our awesome bot. So I actually acknowledged this was a bot to people. Okay. We'll let you know if you've won. It selects random winners until we reach the limit. Okay. What's your name? I collect their name. What's your email? Collect their email. Last thing, if you're selected as a winner, I ask that you don't share it or distribute or copy it. It's a product of mine. Does that work for you? Yes. So I got a lot of permission throughout this one, but it was a giveaway. So people were willing to put all the information in to see if they won. This was the thread that was not a winner. And I told him, hey, I'm sorry, you're not a winner. I'm bummed too. But don't worry. We're going to announce a new giveaway soon. We got some free resources. Want me to send those your way? Yes, please. Deal. And I sent them to, a resource site. So there's a lot of different ways. If they did win, then we went through the collection of them actually, getting the email from me, getting the planner, all of that. But all of this is a giveaway, but I'm still collecting their name, their email, so I can continue the conversation. When you're just putting content out there in that awareness phase, like we talked about, you're not collecting anyone's information. So you could have 85,000 followers on Instagram, but you can't have a conversation with anyone, even if you try, because you don't have information to contact them, to have conversations. So let me know in the chat, type story if you post on stories, but you have no idea, like you're really struggling. Let me know, where are you struggling with turning your stories into sales other than getting people to view them? That is definitely something that you have to encourage the engagement. But if you use this correctly and you get people in conversation on your stories, they will continue to view your stories. Okay. All right, next slide. We're jumping too fast here. Okay. So for flow number 2, the one I just showed you with story replies, 54 contacts replied to my story. 56 in total, 54 were unique, which means somebody replied twice. That could have been me testing it. That's not even gonna lie. Okay. 49 people opened it. Okay. 45 people clicked to see if they were going to be a winner. So I would say giveaways are very high converting. So think about what is something you could give away to get some engagement going, and some excitement and create conversations in your business. And then each one of them, whether they won or not, went through an email sequence after this. So pretty exciting. All right, flow number 3, new followers. So this is for people who weren't following you, okay, and now they are. They hit the follow button. You can send them a DM, but you need to be very careful because they are cold leads, okay? Most of them, unless you're, again, like my husband and you're like, oh, I think I'm gonna follow her today. Boom. Someone DMs you, keyword from, it could also be like a filter. If you put a reel out there, it gets shown to a non-follower, they shoot you a DM, but you notice you're not following them. This could also be a conversation that you could use with them as well, okay? But they hit follow. Hey, so glad you are here. Not even going to lie, this is our awesome chat bot. I acknowledge it's a bot right off the bat, okay? Especially because of time zones and things like that, right? If someone got this message from me and it's, 2 a.m. my time, are they really going to think it's me? No, I might as well just tell them it's a bot. It's my awesome chat bot. Obviously, Alyece has ADHD, so she put me in charge of a few things. It literally tells you that when you follow me on Instagram, okay? Mind if I ask you a quick question about your business? Sure, what's the question? Okay, which of these do you struggle with the most? And then I ask 1, 2, 3. When they click 1 about burnout, it leads to a different DM. Okay, I'm trying to zoom. Here we go. Perfect. I've been there, reheating the same coffee 4 times. Check this out. It may explain a lot of what's happening and how to fix it. So I'm sending them to a resource immediately to warm them up, right? They're brand new. They just followed me. After you take a peek, comment focused on that post, and it'll send you some info on how I can help you, right? And so it is leading them to another post with another trigger word, keeping them engaged, okay? Keeping that conversation. Same thing for number 2. If they click overwhelm, oh, you mean you have $47 million ideas in your notes app that have never seen the light of day? Been there, right? This will help you get unstuck. After, check it out, comment this. Systems that actually work for ADHD brains. Revolutionary concept, right? Watch this, check this out. This is the framework behind my book. So it's continuing that conversation with them, warming them up, nurturing them, pointing them in directions of all of my other resources. And like I said at the very beginning, it's very easy for us to go down rabbit holes. They could potentially go down a rabbit hole of your content. That's what you want, right? You want them to trust you. You never want your content to have like a stopping point. You want it to lead them somewhere else to continue that conversation. Okay. So now this one is brand spanking new. I just redid this flow like 3 days ago. So I don't really have any good metrics on this one just yet, other than the fact that people are receiving it. But someone said earlier in the chat, like, hey, Manychat's firing off, but no one's converting. I've got it on my calendar 30 days from now to go back and review this flow. Are people even opening it? It's very possible it's going to their message request, right? Should I be asking for their name and email right off the bat, right? These are things that I will go back and look at metrics and see if it's worth doing that, if that's something I should be doing. Every flow will be different based on the goal of the flow. If your goal is conversion, if your goal is lead capture, if your goal is, relationship building, trust building, qualifying them, especially if you're booking calls, sales calls, or anything like that through DMs, you want to qualify people. You don't want to be spending your time on the phone with people who aren't qualified, aren't interested. And based on their answer, you tag them differently. Then you know exactly who to follow up with, what to say. Okay. So let me know in the comments, are you currently collecting emails from your Instagram audience? Are you collecting them in DMs or are you sending them to a landing page? Okay. So the human layer. All right. So here's the piece that really makes or breaks all three of these flows and any flow that you create. At 186 locations, I had to make content feel personal, but at a massive scale. And I had to do it very quickly. I didn't have all day to write 186 posts. Okay. We're talking about like a matter of 20 minutes. And so what I figured out is that writing is everything. All right. 3 rules. Number 1, use your real voice. Write the way that you write. Contractions, emojis, incomplete sentences. If that's your vibe, do it. Read every single message out loud before publishing it. If it sounds weird coming out of your mouth, rewrite it. Don't worry about sounding professional or polished, none of that. Because I tell you this, okay, if your Manychat flows sound professional and polished, and then you have a real conversation, a real DM that you're manually doing with someone and it sounds totally different, or you send a voice message and you don't sound anything like that flow, you just lost their trust. You lost their trust way more than acknowledging, hey, that was my chatbot. Like I've gone in before and stopped a flow when my Apple Watch is going off. I can see thousands of notifications back and forth. Stop the flow, a Manychat flow, and commented and said, hey, it looks like you're having a little trouble. My chatbot's giving you a little issue. And all it was is they weren't responding the way it's asking them to respond. But I didn't have the right conditions in there to make it stop on its own. And so it just kept asking them the same question. That was a user error. Okay. But I'm like, it looks like my chatbot's giving you some trouble. Maybe I need to update her software or something like that. Like I just joked about it and we moved past it, right? Rule number 2, don't rush the ask. Okay. Always get their name and email as quickly as possible, but I would not be as soon as they follow you without getting permission. So if you create a new follower flow and you're like, hey, thanks for the follow. Super excited you're here. Here's a few things that I post about. I've actually got a free guide that does this. Do you want it? Get their buy-in. Yeah, I want that. Then ask for their name and email. But you need to give value first. Okay. Build that micro relationship first. The sequence is the strategy. That's how you avoid the ghosting. Okay. And rule number 3, add delays. So this is something that I've slowly gotten better at. Adding 5 seconds between messages, 10 seconds between messages, just making it feel more real and less overwhelming to them. Okay. If I'm texting or typing an actual DM to you, it's going to take me a second. Making that conversation feel the same. Because if it's boom, 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 and you sent them 5 messages in a row with no delay, and they haven't even had time to finish reading the first one, people definitely can tell it's automated. Most people, if they're using Instagram these days, know it's automated anyway, and they don't care as long as it sounds like you and it feels real. Okay. All right. Moving up. So most people don't connect the dots. So these are just a couple things that I would recommend. Write these down. Okay. But these are the pieces that make or break a lot of these flows. And again, all of them learned from experience. Okay. Actions and conditions for sure. Don't just let their email sit in your DMs. It's great to ask for it, but what are you going to do with it? Okay. So make sure you're setting actions where you are tagging them of what they were interested in. Okay. And then there's ways for you to start email workflows for nurture and conversion and follow up. Depending on what CRM you use, what email provider you use, you'll have to do a little research on that. But it makes them feel like you remember them. And they don't get so irritated giving you the same information over and over and over. All right. When to automate, when to go manual. And then I'd love to show you guys a flow before I give you my free resource if we still have time. So when to automate versus going manual. Automate your lead magnet delivery, your qualification questions, okay? Nurture sequences, welcome sequences, follow-up reminders. Automate that stuff. People are used to that. You get a text message from your doctor's office, hopefully, reminding you about your appointment. Or some of them still, my dentist still calls. Man, my dentist, they got to do something, but they're never going to automate. They just refuse. Okay, but they still call me and I'm like, I'm not answering that. I know what it is. I got a dentist appointment tomorrow. It's on my calendar. But they leave me a voicemail every time, right? Automate those things. That's what they're used to. Manual, you can close sales conversations automated, but depending on what your business is, this is going to be a very custom thing, okay? But if it is something where you are coaching or it's super high ticket, a lot of times you're going to have better results closing manually, all right? If not, again, you can do it automated, but totally up to you, depending on what you sell and who you work with, okay? Objection handling. So I wouldn't usually let, AI take over objection handling. Especially because depending on what the objections are, I may or may not even want to work with that person. So you can build that into your flow as well. Obviously, high value relationships. Don't automate all your friends' DMs, okay? If they're like your actual friends, you're going to dinner with them and stuff, make time for them, okay? Emotional conversations and customized proposals. So I would not automate those types of things. Everything else, though, for lead capture and nurture and closing can be automated. So what kills those conversations? Asking for too much too soon. We've talked about this. Sounding like a salesperson. Talked about this. No follow-up sequencing and then ignoring that right now. So I think the best thing to do is for me to open a flow and show you guys just an example flow and maybe answer some questions you have about that. Let me get one opened up. Are we good? Do we have time for that?
Yeah.
I can stay.
We have about like 5-ish minutes, maybe 1 or 2 extra minutes.
Okay.
And I'll scan the chat and the Q&A box for questions in the meantime.
All right. So I'm going to show you guys a very complicated, overwhelming flow, but I don't want you to leave here discouraged, but I want to show you just some of the things that you can do. Okay. And not everything needs to be this complicated, but I'm going to just show you because it has a lot of different elements and I specifically built it this way to be able to show you guys this. Okay. All right. So shortly, let's say this is going to be a lead capture. Okay. So when someone comments, and hopefully you guys know how to set all of this up. If not, I know Manychat is amazing with all the resources. Okay. But if someone comments, they will get a comment reply. Okay. Comment reply, whether it be on story or post. Okay. Then I'm adding a lead tag to that person. I don't have any information on that person yet, other than the fact that they commented. And the reason for that is in case it times out, in case they don't answer anything, I can go back and filter down in my contacts who commented this. And I could do manual follow-up if I wanted to, or I could run, a different sequence at a different point in time, all of that. All right. But that is one of those things we talked about is actions, right? a tag. Now, this is one that I don't use all the time. Depends on honestly how high value of what I'm giving away is. But do they follow my Instagram account? All right. If they do, then we go to the next phase, which is saying, do we know what their first name is? Have I ever had a conversation before with them that I asked their name? Not their username, but their first name. Okay. That is something that I have realized going through my CRM with my emails. I got a lot of emails that don't have names. So it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, I got to get better at that, right? If they follow my Instagram account, we go to the next condition with the name. If they don't, we send a message. Hey, just saw you commented this, looking for this framework. Sometimes Instagram blocks messages if we're not friends. Just to make sure this actually gets to you, hit the follow button. Let me know when you've done that. Click here. Okay. First name, if they following, or once they follow, we go to the first name. Do I know their name? If I do, we go to the next message. If I don't, hey, just saw you commented human. Super excited to get Flow Framework, in your hands. Ready for me to send it to you? Yes or no? Yep, they send it, right? When they click yes, hey, quick question. What's your first name? Because we don't know their name, right? Based on the condition. We collect their name. When we collect their name, we tag them in my CRM. I use Go High Level specifically. Okay. Once they're tagged, the next step, let me shrink this out a little bit. Look, I try to organize it, but All right. Once we tag them in my CRM, we check, do we know their email? We know their name now, but do we know their email? Okay. It's collecting their email. Let me just drag all these up for you guys. That would be helpful. And I'm going to give you guys some examples of these, okay? So don't stress too much. But I wanted to show you how much it can spiderweb.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least we can maybe wrap up in a few minutes. Okay. So I can also get one question.
Okay. All right. So with that being said, you guys, there is a lot you can do. There's only so much I can teach you in an hour. But I definitely want to answer your questions. And I'm just going to put on here on the screen. I'm going to change the screen back to my presentation so that you guys can get the resource. Okay. And if you have any questions about any of this, shoot me a DM. Happy to walk you through it. But I want to answer any questions we have in the chat. I am going to give you my flow framework. If you guys, like I said, I wrote the book Flow First Thinking. I did my TED Talk on Flow First Thinking. I try to bring everything back to flow. And in this case, it's going to be funnel, lead, offer, win. So DM me the word human on Instagram, and I will send you that resource. And I'm going to open the chat and answer some of these. So
I saw one question actually that really did strike me a little bit. That is asking how to actually work with existing followers. Because if you have a new follower, it is a bit easier to hook them in. But if you have an existing follower, maybe kind of lurking, how to loop them in and or get their interest, get their contact.
Yeah. So one way that you could do this that would still allow you to have or use automation as well, just to simplify it, because depending on how this goes, it could blow up. You could manually send them, if you see, let's say you see they're engaging, right? They're making comments, but they haven't converted. Then I would do a qualifying type message. So I would send them a message that says, I'm going to try to turn this down some. Send them a message that says something like, hey, I saw, you've been checking out my post. I know we haven't had a conversation in a while, and it's 2026, new year. I'm trying to just serve at a different level or serve my audience better. If you got a quick second, I would love for you, to ask you a question about what your biggest struggle is when it comes to this, right? And then you can set that up with some sort of automation by saying, if you're willing to help me, reply 2026, and I'd love to ask you, biggest question. Well, then have that be a trigger word. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfectly. I think like you need to build like different mechanisms for like existing and new
Yeah.
audiences
Yeah.
that you want to loop in.
People like to give feedback. People like to talk about themselves. That's human nature. And so, any way that you can find where you say, hey, I just want to ask you really quickly, like, what's your biggest struggle when it comes to this? Whatever your offer is, whoever you're serving. And then based on how they respond, you could set up where they go in different sequences with different flows, different keyword triggers. Or you could, either manually handle it and just try to re-engage them a little bit, or you could send them to a post and say, I'm so glad you asked about that. I just made a post about it a week ago. You might have missed it. I know your feed's full of ads.
Yeah.
Here's the link. Let me know if you have any questions. It's really just, how would you help a friend? Honestly, how
Yeah.
would you help a friend?
Thank you. Since you gave the
Yeah.
permission, I'll
Yeah.
just leave the rest of the questions in your DM box.
Yeah.
And I hope to maybe just get one more second of everyone to just thank you once again for everything like you've packed in this hour. At least like you've been amazing.
Yeah.
I learned a lot, even
Yeah.
not as a creator myself. Like this was so engaging. I hope everyone got something they can now like take it away and implement. We will be sharing the recording, and you can DM Alyece Human, and she will share her templates with you.
Mhm.
We have two asks before you go. We will love if you could just fill in the event survey. It will just pop up after you close the webinar. It helps us organizing better events and invite guests like Alyece and share and tag us on socials at Manychat. And also, Alyece, you could drop your socials. I did, I think, on the chat. But also, please tag Alyece too. We would love to like see your impressions, what you took away from this webinar, how you're using it. And yeah, these would just help us really bring more events and guests to you. All
Yeah.
right. With that, thank you so much. Should I
Yeah.
give you a last word? Do you have one last thing to share with the audience?
Yeah, just being authentic online is the biggest way to stand out. And, I saw in the very beginning, we have a ton of, what hook do I use? I'm getting ghosted. Um, your authentic self is your superpower at this point, standing out, being different. And so remembering that in everything that you do, the conversations, the offers, the flows. If you didn't get your question answered because we totally ran out of time, I could talk all day, shoot it to me in a DM. I will answer it. Not my Manychat bot. It will be me if it's a personal question, but I'd love to help you. And so somebody's asking, what's my IG? Socially.awesome. So yeah, I think that's it.
On the chat, and I'll make sure maybe once more drop it. All right. Thank you so much,
Perfect.
everyone. Have a nice rest of your days, evenings, wherever you're joining us from. And see you on the next one. And thank you, Alyece.
Bye.
Bye.